Once again to you, welcome to your world this morning. Once again, my name is Zainab. Thank you so much for joining us. I have my panelists this morning, and today I'll be introducing them in a moment. Today it's all about issues of menstrual health and hygiene. Just looking back at the policy from the Ministry of Health, which marks the menstrual health hygiene management policy 2019 to 2030, is a policy that is meant to ensure that all women and girls in Kenya can manage menstruation hygienically, freely, with dignity, without stigma or taboos, and with access to the right information on menstrual health management, menstrual products, services and facilities, and to safely dispose of menstrual waste. And remember, this Saturday, the Nation Media Group has organized an event that's on the 15th of July on the Changing Cycles event, and that's a conversation around menstrual health and hygiene. So we will be giving you more details of that particular event. But in studio with me, I'm with James Atito, who is Stretchers Youth Organization. He's a member of the Stretchers Youth Organization. He's an advocate of the menstrual health rights and hygiene for young girls, and carries the tag Period Man quite proudly. He'll be telling us a little bit about why and where he got that particular name. We also have Eric Simba with us this morning, founder and director of CBCK, which is the Christian Best Camps of Kenya. It's an organization at the forefront of a campaign and has provided free sanitary towels to hundreds of girls from underprivileged backgrounds. And also joining us via Zoom virtually is Rajiv Joshi, who's the CEO of Sai Pharmaceuticals Limited Hygiene Division. Will be telling us a little bit more in terms of the production of sanitary towels and the products that we still need on the same. All right, so let me begin with James. There's a lot of conversation we have on issues of menstrual health and hygiene and menstrual health management across the country and the world, but that conversation is usually, a women conversation sort of. But it's interesting to see that the men are actually at the forefront as well. Men like yourselves at the forefront of having this conversation. Just talk to us about, first of all, Period Man. Where did you get that name from? And why is this conversation important for you as a man?
Well, thank you very much, Zainab, and good morning. As you've mentioned, James Atito, I work at Stretchers Youth Organization, and the brand, the Period Man, started way back in 2019. That was when I visited Turkana, a place known as Kakuma. I know you're familiar with that. So one evening, I had gone to Turkana to train adolescents on sexual reproductive health and rights and life skills. So one evening when I was walking with a few colleagues, I came across a group of 7 girls seated by the roadside. In Turkana, they call them laggers, the girl erosions that happen by the roadsides. So these girls were seated there. It was around 7 p.m. It was drizzling a bit, so we were rushing to the hotel where we were going to spend. I asked the person we were walking with, because she was a native, why are these girls seated here by this time of the night? And it is drizzling. Then I was told that these girls were menstruating, and it is a taboo for them to be in their homes, especially if men are part of those homes.
Wow.
So I felt so sorry for them, but I couldn't do much. The following day, it was the training day. So I was demonstrating how to use a menstrual cup as a product for managing menses. Then there's a girl who furiously asked, why are you talking about periods and you're a man? Kwani we ni period man? So it didn't hit me then, but I just explained why it was important for me to talk about periods at that time.
It was just out of the norm. Why should a man discuss this?
Yeah.
Anyway, right.
So when I went back to Mombasa, I thought about the 7 girls and the kind of taboo that is there in Turkana. And not only Turkana, but I had also heard about the same across very many places. So I thought of coming out as a man to boldly talk about the menses or the periods in a way that I've not heard people address it. Because I used to hear of many champions talking about different aspects, talk about HIV, TB, malaria, but I didn't hear periods. And even when you hear about periods, it's just distribution of sanitary pads. So that is when I thought about, kwani we ni period man? And so I decided to pick that as a brand name to advocate for dignified menstruation, to break that silence among men.
Right.
So that is when I got the name.
The name.
Yes, in
right.
2019.
And quite refreshing actually to see how this conversation shifts from just being a women's affair to the men taking the forefront of this campaign, Eric. How do you think we can be able to include more men in this conversation? And why is it important for you, by the way, personally, as a man, to be at the forefront?
First of all, thank you, Zainab, for having me in this show. And I've been watching the morning show, so it's a privilege to be in this studio this morning. As you've rightly introduced me, I'm Eric Simba, the founder and director of Christian Base Camps of Kenya. I'm here by the virtue of that I live with a woman. And so I do not claim to qualify to talk about women issues, but I claim to have experienced one now that I've lived with one, and I've also been brought up in Kibra. As you know, it's a very large slum, and some of the issues that we're talking about today are prevalent there. So why it's important for men to talk about these issues is because growing up also, I was able to experience the challenges that some of the women in my life, that includes my sisters and the ones that I grew up with, faced. And one of the things that has made me to take this as a personal initiative is that our organization also is so much involved in sports camp as a way of nurturing talents. So one of the things that I saw, we had a very good athlete who is a lady. I will not mention her name just to protect her. But one time when we had our sports camps, she was running and she was winning the race. Then all of a sudden she stopped. And when she stopped, you know, people are cheering and people are looking at her. Then you're wondering what's happening. So the next thing we saw was blood coming from, you know, from her back, trickling down. And I think the look on her face is something I'll never forget, because I think she didn't know how to act. So she just took like a knee or something, sat down and covered her face. And that is an image that will never leave me. And so I just, as being the camp director, and there were other people there were other counselors and people are doing their thing. So I just walked towards her and she looked at me and she asked me, can I just go home? And I was like, yeah, we can do that. But of course we knew what was happening. So some women came around her, covered her and all those kind of things. But she never came back for that camp until the next season.
Right.
And also growing up, just seeing how some women stayed away from school when they're having their menses, because the schools that I went to, some were public, some were in the slums of Kibra. And most of the young girls there could not afford a pad. So they would just stay away from school during that time. And I think we're talking about an issue that is very important in a sense that blood is not anything anybody wants to interact with. Whether you be it a medical officer, whether be it a woman or a man. So it's something that is very personal to a woman. And when they're going through that season, their body is cleansing itself. And so you can imagine if you don't have a way to safely go through that process. Instead of being a normal biological process, it becomes something that brings shame and trauma. So to me, I felt that if I'm given a chance, I would want to ensure that every woman and girl goes through that season without having to worry about their dignity, having to worry about their self-esteem, just going through a normal process. You know, I always say at times, I believe that God is a man because you are favored. I look at the kind of things that women go through, and it just humbles me. So that's why I made it a personal issue. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. And I remember when I was probably a little bit younger, even buying, you know, sanitary towels from the shops was quite an embarrassing venture. You know, even when you go buy, what they would do is take a newspaper and wrap it very well and put it in the first bag and wrap it and put it in the second bag, so that you can't walk around carrying a sanitary towel. So that sort of carried a sense of sort of shame, something that needed to be hidden. So, but that narrative is slowly changing.
It is, because also I think Also being that we're a faith-based organization, also religiously, if you are to follow some of the teachings, it says that when a woman is going through that season, she should be kept away if you were to follow those teachings. So also in a way, I just feel it's just been hard on women. I will never experience that because I'm a man, but seeing it from afar, I just think it's been hard on them. And also, if not to change the topic, but I feel if you go to government facilities, they give things for sexual whatever, you know, and even that is a man's thing. The female ones you'll never find. You know what I am talking about. So I think at the end of the day, we just need to agree that this is a biological process that every girl and woman will go through at one point of their lives. Let's not make it a big deal. Let's make it safe for them, whereby whether they're in school, whether they're everywhere, the same way there are dispensers for other things which are not as important as what the women are going through because they have no choice. Other things we have choice, but this one they do not have. Let's make sure that it's available and affordable. All right. Yes.
Rajiv, let me bring you into this conversation because I think one of the biggest challenges that young girls and women across many parts of this country face is the issue of access and affordability to sanitary towels. Just talk to us about how do we begin bridging that? You are in that space where you manufacture these products and also contribute in terms of bridging that issue of access to sanitary towels, and especially for underprivileged communities and girls that come from such communities. How do we begin addressing that particular issue?
Thank you, Zainab, and good morning. And thanks for bringing me here on this platform to speak on this issue. This is a very, very vital issue, as the other two gentlemen have spoken. I would first like to emphasize this issue as an issue of women's empowerment. As I'll come to the availability and affordability later on. But this issue, one part is the trauma and harassment and whatnot the girl or the woman goes through because of the period shame and whatever James and Eric have been talking about. But then James also picked up the issue of, he said that during the menstrual cycle, the girls, they don't go to school. Now that eventually results into they getting dropped out from the school.
Yes.
Right? And then once a young girl gets dropped out, you can imagine the consequence. She's not educated. She gets into, I'm referring to far-flung areas, remote areas like Turkana, as you mentioned. So then that results into early marriage and all those, it's a lifelong trauma because of a small thing. As James said, it's not a big deal. And it's really not a big deal when all of us come together. So it is like we are depriving our woman of empowerment. And I'll say that the sex ratio in Kenya is 50-50%. So we are depriving 50% of our human resource, okay, to contribute towards the development of this country. This is a major issue. So every woman has right to independence, right to empowerment. And then another question is that the male's perspective and the men's engagement into this issue. And I will strongly say that men should be engaged in this issue, because this is a very, very, when I'll share stats with you, then you will see that the men's engagement in this issue is very, very important. Women alone cannot fight this issue, and this is a very large issue. Now, coming back to the stats before I get to availability, today in Kenya, if you see about 25 to 30%, only 25 to 30% women are privy to sanitary pad. Remaining, the balance of the women are this important product is not even available to them because of availability, because of affordability, or because of any other reason, because of taboo or whatnot. So, and this is Kenya. Kenya is probably one of the most developed country in the sub-Sahara, probably equivalent to South Africa. So if you go down, if you go to Uganda, if you go to, I went to Madagascar. There, this conversion is like 8-9%. Uganda, it is 17-18%, right? So first thing is that we have to ensure that this important product is made available to our girls, starting from at the school level. And then, of course, the second thing is, now when it comes to affordability, let me tell you that affordability is more important than availability. Availability is something which has to do with the logistics and supply chain, which still people like us can manage. But affordability is very, very important. Like, for example, in far-flung areas, people living below the poverty line, those women are also, they should also get a sanitary pad. But how do they afford? That's a very important thing.
All right, and we'll come back.
For example, our government. Yeah.
Rajiv, will come back to that much deeper in terms of the issue of affordability as well. And I mean, that's one of the biggest issues when we're looking at access to sanitary towels and this particular, not just towels, but the products that we use. James, when you speak to the girls, when you are out there campaigning, what are the biggest concerns for the people who do not have access to these products? What are their biggest issues?
Okay. There are a lot of issues that girls face when it comes to access to menstrual products. And I'm glad that you've put it as menstrual products, not just sanitary towels.
Correct. Because sometimes we just think of that specific one product.
Yes.
But there are so many other products that are available and can help the situation as well.
Sure.
Right.
So when we talk to girls, we address it from the perspective of what we call 5 Ps of understanding menstrual hygiene. When we talk about 5 Ps, we are talking about the products. We are sharing with the girls that we have different kind of menstrual products that are available in the market for them to use based on what works well for you. Other than the products, we are talking about the hygiene aspect.
Okay.
Because if we don't address also the hygiene aspect, girls end up with infections. So we talk about the hygiene aspect. But one of the most important things that is missing out, that most girls face and they're not talking about, is pain. Period pain that comes during menstruation. Some do not even understand what level would be normal and which one wouldn't be normal. We've had girls diagnosed with conditions like endometriosis, fibroids.
Right.
You can mention different kind of conditions that are there in the market, or sorry, not in the market, but that exist.
Right.
So these girls, most of them suffer from this condition not knowing what is the problem.
So there's lack of awareness.
Awareness on the menstrual health conditions that girls face. So we sensitize them about all this so that they get to understand that if they have pain that is limiting them to do their day-to-day activities, then it is important for them to get diagnosis. They should not just rush to getting painkillers, because that is also another problem. We have girls who go to chemists, they buy painkillers. Some don't even know what kind of painkillers to use. The other day I met a girl who said that they used an Indocid to treat period pain. So you get to realize that there is a missing information that this girl doesn't have.
So there's a gap there.
There's a gap that needs to be addressed. But most importantly, it is crucial that we address the pain management aspect for girls to go through this process with ease. Yes.
All right. And we'll come back to the issue of stigma still, because what is happening even as we're having this conversation is that there's actually a case in court of some staff members of a company somewhere here in Kenya, in Limuru, who forced women, the staff members, to undress in order to find out who had thrown a used pad in the wrong bin. Can you imagine the level of psychological trauma that must have caused the female staff members there? And unfortunately enough, it was actually female members of the management who actually did this. So we'll come back to that issue of stigma, but we have to take a very quick break here on Your World. But before that, remember, children all around Kenya rely on water from unsafe sources, and Colgate is asking you to help change this. So they're saying just a little water can make a big difference. Now they're saying for every pack of Colgate you buy exclusively at Naivas, you're helping them build 30 water wells that will provide clean water for about 120,000 Kenyans. They're saying you're going to give a helping hand by shopping at your nearest Naivas store or online at naivas.co.ke. And for more information about that campaign by Colgate, you can join their Facebook page or wellboringcolgate.com, and terms and conditions do apply. Let's take that break. We're going to be back.
As a mother, I have to do my duties in the house. It forces me to send her to the river because I have no alternative.
Pia ora ok ber, ler bedo ok ler. Otuo nikech pia ora. Otuo ok odhi skul, japuonj chunye chandore.
If children had water close by, they won't be sick, they won't be distracted because the water is clean.
When you've gotta go, go for Neptune, the softer two-ply tissue paper, available in plain white and colored.
My shirt, a toss of lavender, and a world of freshness.
Wash your clothes with Toss Lavender to leave your clothes with a lasting, irresistible freshness.
What happened to you?
Well, I hit myself with a fridge door.
You should be more careful.
I know.
I'm very much a real woman, but I won't allow you to treat me like just one of your collection. I didn't like the way you treated me at the hotel. Something has happened that Diego and I are completely at odds about. He wants one thing and I want the opposite. It's as if he's two different people. The Diego before and the now.
Head over heels.
How do you keep your toilets clean?
I use normal detergent and bleach for washing.
The detergent and bleach cleanliness can leave behind yellowness, rust, and germs. Harpic's 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergents and bleach, and kills 99.9% illness-causing germs in your toilet, including the COVID-19 virus.
You are watching Your World in association with Colgate.
All right, welcome back to the program as we take a look at the issue of menstrual health and hygiene as well in the country. And I will be engaging my panelists in just a moment here. But just going back to what I'd mentioned before we took a break, there is a campaign being run by Colgate, and they're asking you that there's something that you can do to make people smile. And that is for those that are next to you. They're saying Colgate is helping to provide clean drinking water so that children can have a bright future by staying in school. For every pack of Colgate that you buy at your nearest Naivas store over the next 2 months, they're saying you can be able to help to build about 30 water wells that will provide clean water for about 120,000 people. And that is something they're saying is good to happen and to something to smile about as well. All right, and you can get more information on their website as well as their Facebook page. Just going back to that conversation we were having, Eric, and before we took a break, I did mention that this is something that is happening across the country. It's a conversation. It's an event that has captured the attention of a lot of people at a time when we're having this conversation on changing cycles. Staff members, female staff members, were unfortunately asked to strip in order to be checked who was on their menstruation and to know who might have disposed of a used pad in a wrong bin. So you can imagine how that adds to the level of stigma that is already there. So how do you begin addressing that issue of stigma? Because we can't say we're way past that, because that is still something that is happening.
I think also we have to recondition our minds, because for the longest time menstrual health is something that has been attributed mostly to women.
Right.
So from the word go, even when a man or some women also, do you know also there are women who have gone through trauma and some of them never healed from it. I'm not attributing that to this event, but I'm saying at the end of the day is that if there's this young girl or young woman who was shamed because of period poverty, and they grow and they end up in a professional field or something of that sort, some of them carry that pain with them. And so even how they treat others, they're like, you should know these are women's issue, why are you disposing things this way? But you see also there are people who have not been exposed, So for me, what I would say is that first of all, it was wrong. And that coming from, I think one of the managers must have been a woman or something, if I'm not wrong. But I think at the end of the day is we have to agree that this is a problem. And so it needs to become a national issue whereby also men are involved in that conversation. Because the more we make it to be a women's problem and we make it a taboo and something that is scary, bloody, gory, something that, as in there's nothing wrong even in public spaces. Because I remember when I was growing up, I used to visit some companies and I would see a certain product being placed there where women could dispose of their used sanitary pads or towels. And it was something that was hidden. You find it somewhere hidden in the toilet or something of that sort. So I think the moment we normalize it and make it okay, that of course a woman goes through this or a young girl goes through this, and when they go through it, they are going to dispose it off, and it's going, just like you put, a dustbin somewhere. Because the other thing is, I think maybe the managers were angry at her because they felt maybe the disposal was wrong, but the approach that they used also was wrong.
Was quite wrong.
Was quite wrong. So I think at the end of the day is, if you also have designated areas and people are taught, as part of orientation even for staff, to let them know that these bins are going to be available and women go through this thing and it's okay. It's not as if they've done something wrong, it's part of our system. And that goes on in schools, that goes on in organizations. Because even in the schools that I work in Kibra and Sami in Madare, that we support with sanitary towels, you find that they don't have disposal bins, and that is a reality. And where will it end up? Rivers, it will end up in your food and things like that, where people are growing food next to the rivers. So that is the reality. Or kids will end up playing with them. Children in the streets or in the slums, they end up playing with some of these kids. So I think at the end of the day, we need to recondition our minds and we need to make this a national conversation, whereby the same way people are taught about personal hygiene for both sexes, also menstrual health should be there for both sexes. Where in the same class, men are also taught the same things so that they can know how to react, how to approach. Like even here, on the streets, I've seen women having accidents. And most of the time, not so often, I do not feel ashamed to take a lasso and borrow it from a lady and go and cover. But other men will like, they don't know what to do. Even women don't know what to do. Some will just be, guy, what's happening? People are confused. So I think at the end of the day,
so we sort of need to create the
yes,
safe space.
Safe space
for women to have this conversation and for women to feel safe when this is happening.
Women and men, because it may happen where men are and they don't know how to react. Because we've made it a women issue, a man will feel like hands-off men, look for another, but you can also assist.
Right.
Yeah.
Rajiv, let me hear from you on the issue of sort of reconditioning our minds and changing our mindset and narratives on this whole particular matter. And also, do you think workplaces should provide facilities and support for women during their periods? Why not?
Important. Let me quote an example from Southern Africa, including, this initiative was started from South Africa, coming up to Zimbabwe, Zambia, all these countries. They have started putting sanitary pad dispensers. It's not a very expensive thing. Those dispensers they are being put at the school level, at the hospital level, then at the county level. County has got their small offices even at the village level. So all those dispensers could be put there, and the woman should have the freedom to take sanitary pad from there. That's the part of availability I was talking about, right? Then affordability, I'll come, because that's another very crucial issue. Then number two, the disposal. This whole debate was going on for disposal. So why disposal is important is because this is a very personal kind of a product, so it should be nicely disposed, right?
Right.
So when we manufacture a sanitary pad, so we give that provision, to wrap it very, very nicely. It has a poly wrap, okay, in which you can wrap it so nicely, and then ideally there should be a bin where it is disposed, right? And when there is no bin, like if you go to remote areas, the bin could be in every school, the bin could be in every company office, could be in the county office, or wherever it is possible. Now, but the second part is that imagine, as once again I go back to Turkana or Masabit. So where there is no bin, so are you saying that will deprive our school girl or our small girl or the young lady with the hygiene product?
No.
We cannot. We cannot. And then the second argument which comes up on this is the environmental part, okay? Because the sanitary pad is not fully biodegradable.
Correct.
It's about 55% biodegradable. So people like us should try to make it little more biodegradable, whatever maximum we can do. But then the amount of impact it is going to bring to the environment, that small quantity, then it is much less than, it is minuscule as compared to what the developed world is doing in terms of industrialization, So I'll say that wherever possible, there should be arrangement for disposal. There should be a bin, of course. And then wherever it is not possible, then let us not deprive.
And
that's my submission.
Even with that, Rajiv, before we continue, I mean, when we look at the issue of menstrual products, we think about the disposable products, but we are now sort of shifting into non-disposable, should I call them non-disposable products? Reusable products. Let me tell them. Reusable products. Should we now, you work in that space where perhaps we can have a look at how we can then change, products from being just non-disposable and perhaps increase manufacturing on the reusable products like the menstrual cups, perhaps.
Well, there are a lot of organizations, those who work on reusable pads. Okay? But the fear of using and the disadvantage of using a reusable pad is that the blood which comes out during the menstrual cycle is not an ordinary blood. Okay, and when you have to physically clean the pad. It's a cloth pad basically, and you have to clean the pad. And then you have to put it in the sunlight, direct sunlight, for a certain amount of time before it can be used again. So the availability of water, the availability of right detergent to clean it properly, the pain of washing it, and then the availability of sunlight,
right,
around the year. So all those issues are very concerning, and no girl, you can't expect a girl to take that much of pain just for her menstrual pad.
Okay.
Right? That's one.
All right.
Then number two, on the affordability side, we should try and make a pad. Like for example, one girl probably would need about 8 to 10 pads during the menstrual cycle.
Correct.
So let's say 120 pads in a year. So we should make the pad in such a way, we should make it, as manufacturers, we should make it so affordable that 120 pad is costing equivalent to, let's say, 10 cloth pad. And the issue is resolved.
All right. I mean, I see that you actually have brought some products with you, James. Maybe you can demonstrate for us some of these products you've brought in studio and how they would perhaps help, sort of address the situation, first of all, of, accessibility and disposable, could be a little bit affordable, perhaps. Maybe you can give us an idea, but also the reusable ones. How do they work?
Yes, that is true. With me, I have some sample of menstrual products that we sensitize girls on.
Right.
So when we're talking about disposable menstrual products, they're the normal pads that people are aware of. You use once, you throw into the bin.
Correct.
Okay? They are very common. Other than that, they're the tampons. They're also disposable. You use once, you throw them to the bin.
So these are the disposable
These
ones.
are the disposable.
The pad and the tampon.
Pad and the tampon.
Right.
Okay? Then we have the reusable products, where we talk about the reusable sanitary pads. Okay? These are recyclable, or they are used for about 15 months. You can use, wash, dry them, reuse again.
So what is this made of? What material is this made of? Cotton?
Well, yes. This there are three materials used to make this. There is an absorbent inside that makes sure that you get the blood out of this outer layer. Then this one is a bit it's cotton to allow or to be friendly also with the body, so that there are no irritation.
Right.
Yes. Then there is this the outer material that does not allow the blood to come out. Okay. So we also encourage use of the reusable products to address the aspect of disposal. Okay. Because if you have this, and it doesn't come just one of it. There is a pack that comes with at least 4 pads.
So you can wash as you
so
wait
you
for the
wash, wait
But
for it
Rajiv
to dry.
speaks of, issues of, let's say, availability of water. For example, those people who really perhaps would need such kind of products, they also have other issues, which include lack of water, access to clean water, and all these things. How would they manage that?
That's true. There are different materials in the market. Okay, there are those that are locally made, and people use different materials to make them. But there are those materials that don't really need a lot of water. We cannot disregard the aspect of access to water because it is important we use water in cleaning the menstrual products. But not necessarily do they need a lot of water. A cup or two, like the material that you use to make this pad, you just need a cup. Once the pad is used, you drop this pad into the water in a basin, which is just a cup of water. The blood will come out from this product and mix with the water. What you need to do is simply squeeze, then pour that water and have another cup to now wash it, the same way you would wash a panty.
How hygienic would that be?
Okay.
I just want to chip in a bit.
Okay. It is very hygienic.
All right.
What we always do during the trainings, we train girls how to clean, how to dry, and how to reuse again. Okay.
All right.
So there is a lot of information. You don't just give the pads to the girls and leave them the way you would leave them with the disposable pad. There's a lot of information around it. That also is the same with the cup, the menstrual cup. When talking about the cup, something like this. There is also a training accompanied with the distribution. You don't just give girls the cup and leave them on their own.
So you have to sort of...
You train them
right.
how to insert, how to remove, how to clean, how to sterilize, and even how to store after usage.
Okay.
And for how long would you use the cup? So that girls have information on different kind of products that are there in the market that they can feel comfortable to use.
All right.
But most importantly, we advocate for freeness or free will to use any product that you feel comfortable.
Okay.
Some would be comfortable with the reusable, some would be very comfortable with the disposable depending on other circumstances like the water aspect.
All right.
When it comes to disposal, we also, we know in the market currently, there are few manufacturers who provide the sanitary pad incinerators, where once you remove this disposable pad, you simply fold it, drop it into the incinerator, then switch it on, and it burns completely within 5 minutes. So that we stop or we reduce the aspect of flooding our environment.
And also the issue of waste management as well, right? And environmental waste management.
Sure.
All right, Eric, yes, you want to add?
Just something to say. Through our pad center, we've given over 17,000 reusable sanitary towels. And one of the issues that we had, and for me, I talk from a counselor's perspective. That is my background. I think that's a very, not to discredit any product, that's a very personal space when it comes to women, when they're going through that cycle. And many of them have looked at us in the eyes, and especially me, because I have women who run the program, but I assist as I can. And I have said most of the conversation I'm giving is based on experiential, because I can never truly experience men like women do. So one of the things that they said to us was that if we were not poor, would you give us reusable sanitary kits? Are you giving us because you've been given for free? And one of the reasons was because of the poverty levels in some of their homes, some of them share. Because you find that maybe I'm having, and I was only given one, because the ones that come, they have different layers, of course, like he has explained, and they come like 8 and with different padding where you can clip them on the panty. But some of them are like washing your own blood at that time, and you know, the body's cleaning itself. It's a very traumatizing for some of them. And then also the issue of water and infections. Because also at times you find that if you are to give this in hot areas, if a woman puts it on, it's cotton and they're having their thing, and some are having heavy flows, it becomes very uncomfortable, and some of it leaks out. So that has also been a conversation, maybe as they are producing and helping, people can consider that also. And also there's also been an issue of the kind of products that end up in the slums vis-a-vis the ones that end up in a supermarket, you know, those high-end. So at the end of the day, even
so
when
it speaks of the quality as well.
Yeah, so there's been the issue of quality and also the issue of dignity. Because when, you can imagine if you're having your cycle and you have to wash it, at times like what he said, it can be very traumatizing for some women. And some of them have said, I would rather go to my hole and do my thing than to have to look at it again and air it and carry it with me. Also, you know, there's the issue like, let me give an example. There's a lady we had given one, and then of course this proper disposable, of course we've given a place to put it. Then she was going through a security screening. And the lady was checking, and you know, at times some of them can be very aggressive. And they end up removing the thing, and you know, you're in a line and everybody. So there are those issues to do with dignity, and also just how we, if we have to do reusable, then maybe how do we ensure that it is not stigmatizing a woman in Turkana who does not have water? Because they have to wash it, they have to carry it all day long. So maybe just something to think about. I'm not a manufacturer, but things like that can be thought through. And yeah, and also
I'm sure Rajiv has some thoughts on that as well. And Rajiv, let me give you an opportunity as well. And I know we're out of time, so perhaps it will just be also, as you respond to that, your final remarks as well, and how you feel then, even, you know, as a man in your own right, personally as an individual, how you can be able to, you know, create a more safe environment for women to feel safe, you know, when they're menstruating, and to feel, you know, they're not shamed while on their periods.
So my submission is that this is a very large issue because women constitute 50% of our human resource. They should get that respect. And as Eric and James have been saying, education is key.
Yeah.
Education at all levels. In fact, I would go to an extent of recommending that this should be included in the curriculum starting class 7th or 8th.
True.
So that when boys and girls are taught this by the teacher at the level of the school, then there is no stigma. Then the way they read history, math, science, they also read this. So there is no stigma around it. So, and it is happening in countries like India, where this was a greater taboo as compared to Africa.
Right.
Now everything has changed. It is even the part of the curriculum in some of the states. So this is there. So education is key, and women should be given this confidence that there's nothing wrong about it. This is something very usual, a biological process. And second thing is that they should be every girl should be privy to the availability of sanitary pad.
All right.
They should, or any hygiene product for that matter.
Indeed. Thank you, Rajiv. And let me also get James, as you make your final remarks. Rajiv has spoken about the issue of inculcating education, especially among boys and, young men, and, teaching them about this issue of menstruation so that they grow up with a better understanding and more empathy, towards young girls and women as we grow up. So it's not a women's affair. It's an everybody's affair, that this is a biological, process.
Yes, and that is very true. I would address it from the point of menstrual health. It is a human right issue. It is a human right issue in the aspect that it affects the reproductive health of the woman. Number two, it affects achievement of sustainable development goals, and not just health, but also education, gender equality, sustainable environment, and many others. So if we cannot address menstrual health, it will be very difficult to achieve the sustainable development goals. Number three, it is important that men engage in this conversation because, one, they are head of families. And most men hold the budget at household level. So if we are not able to understand the challenges that girls go through at household level, it becomes very difficult to budget for them. It becomes very difficult even to allocate resources at household level, in workplaces, in offices, decision-making bodies. Our president is a man. If he cannot understand the challenges that women go through, it will be even difficult to increase allocation to address menstrual health challenges in this country.
It's a more of a multi-sectoral approach.
Yes.
From the policy makers up to the very lowest level ways, in the schools and in the communities and our brothers and sisters and everybody else.
Sure. It needs multi-sectoral approach to address menstrual health challenges.
Right.
And so it is important that people be deliberate. You see, for me to have decided to champion for this cause, for my organization to have decided to champion for the cause, we were deliberate that we want to address the challenges that girls go through when it comes to menstrual health. Eric, Rabji, they are deliberate that they want to fit and address something in their own spaces.
Right.
So we have to be deliberate to make sure that we are ending the stigma and the poverty that comes with all these aspects of menstrual health.
All right. And Eric, let me get your final thoughts as well.
My final thoughts is that at times I believe life is made of simple solutions. I want to thank Rajiv for what they are doing as a company and the period man here, my friend, for what he's also doing to highlight this issue. So for me, what I decided to do was to tell all my male friends, when I have a birthday, they get me a box of pads. And all the women in my life know, if you have a birthday, you're sending me a box of pads. So that means that at least a number of women are going to be, and girls are going to get a sanitary towel. So I think one of the things is just education is key, like what we have all agreed as a panel, that if we educate, then I don't even think it will become a conversation anymore. because it will just become a life issue, whereby we ensure that every month when a girl or a woman has to go through her menses, they are okay, they are covered. Because, for example, some go between an average of, I think it can go from 4 to a week or so, depending on your flow. So if those days a woman can feel, loved, they can feel cared for and understood, then they'll be very productive, whether in the workplace or in school. So I believe this is a conversation that, can you imagine that it's only, for example, the products that I've seen, they range between from maybe 70 to 100, depending on the product that you're buying for these girls and women. So if you just say for $1 a month, even if you're a guy, you can adopt one girl or one woman that you know in your society who goes through the men's.
That's a fantastic idea.
It's just simple. It's a simple thing. That's $1 or $2. So we can make this, and we can end period poverty. If we decide, let's leave 2030 for government. We can end it by 2023.
It's your own initiative.
It's your own initiative. It starts with me. It spreads out.
Right. And we did ask when we began the broadcast, and this was specifically for the men, and we asked, gents, how do you support your female relatives? Okay, how do you call it? The people within your space. So it could be your spouse, female friends, sisters, during their menstrual cycle. All right, and there's very interesting comments here. So I am going to just pick a couple of that. John Paul says, I don't even know if the sister is going through or under the process. It's totally secret in our community. Men aren't even aware of. All right. Muturi Joffrey says, when you do the right thing, you don't even need to remember what you're doing to help your partner, as everything falls in place. All right. Jesse Kepkoech says, in African tradition setting, sometimes such support may be seen as disrespectful or immoral. Some cultures even do not allow any such talk, like huwezi ambia sister yako menstruation yako ni kusupport aje. So you see, those are the conversations they're having. At Makiche Kipkurui saying, by buying them the necessities and supporting them in maintaining a good hygiene. Thank you so much, Makiche. At Justo saying, let her rest and I would perform all the chores that she's supposed to do, which is a good thing, And then Justin Kiplagat saying, supporting them with pads. Ruto David saying, buying them fruits and lots of soft drinks. I don't know if that's a solution. Soft drinks, I don't know if it helps. No, it does not help. I'm asking the men, and I should be answering that, but yeah, it doesn't. But maybe lastly, okay, no, there's actually a comment I was looking for, which is quite debatable. Let me see if I can get that. It's so unfortunate that some are quite, the comments are a little bit, should I say insensitive?
Yes. Yeah.
Because like there's a gentleman who says, when that happens and you pay your in-laws a visit, pretend you're going for a short call, leave your phone on and just off, and then just don't, people are insensitive to this. But I hope that conversation begins to change the mindset that we have, and how we can be able to recondition our thinking when it comes to issues of menstrual health management in this country and across, the world as well. So it begins from you, as everybody who is on this panel has said. It begins with you as an individual, and then the policy issues will come into place as well. But thank you so much. James Atito, Stretchers Youth Organization, also advocate for menstrual health rights and hygiene for young girls. He carries the tag, and you can see on his shirt there, Period Man. Very proudly, he is the Period Man of Kenya, and we appreciate your work. Eric Simba, founder and director of Christian Best Camps of Kenya, who is also at the forefront of providing menstrual products to girls and women across vulnerable societies in the country, as well as Rajiv Joshi, CEO of the Sai Pharmaceuticals Limited Hygiene Division, who are also making a difference in that, in terms of the manufacturing of menstrual products as well. Thank you so much, Rajiv, for coming in this conversation. This is where we end it, but also just to remind you also very quickly on a campaign by Colgate that we're still letting you know about, is that when a child has to help their family fetch water, There is no such thing as a day off. So Colgate is asking you to help them change that. They're asking all of you to help support the future of their country, which is the children. And just like clean water, every little drop makes a difference. For every pack of Colgate they say you buy at your nearest Naivas store, you're helping them build about 30 water wheels that will provide clean water for about 120,000 Kenyans. And they're saying you can make a larger impact and help them reach more Kenyans by donating via M-Pesa. You can visit the Colgate Kenya Facebook page or wellboringcolgate.com website for more information, and terms and conditions apply. They are saying children all around Kenya do rely on water from unsafe sources, and they're asking you to help change that. And just a little water can make a big difference. For every pack of Colgate that you buy exclusively at your Naivas shop, you help them build about 30 water wells that will provide clean water for 120,000 Kenyans, giving a helping hand by shopping at your nearest Naivas store or online at naivas.co.ke. And for more information about that campaign by Colgate, you can go to their Facebook page or wellboringcolgate.com. Terms and conditions do apply. This is where we wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching Your World. We'll be giving you more details of how the day pans out, as of course we anticipate the opposition protests that are expected to happen today. All right, so my name is Zainab Ismail.